Sense is a simple system that tracks your sleep, monitors the environment of your bedroom, and reinvents the alarm. Sense watches for noise, light, doing these things in concert together, obviously it becomes even more complex. That's why we've assembled a team of the best people to do just that. With the rise of wearables, we've seen that people clearly care.
You find that so welcome everybody, welcome on Zoom, people following on YouTube, you're all welcome to today's session. We're going to have another exciting time together today. Okay, so if you are just joining or you this is your second class or it is your first class, so it's important that we note that you can access the previous session video, right? And the link to that has already been shared on YouTube. Okay, so the link to that has already been shared. You can find that on the info pack document that was shared earlier. It's also on the YouTube channel. It's also on the form. It's on the classroom, so you can get access to it there. All right. So every detail you need can be found on the info pack that we shared, and you should know that right now we should all be signing in. So if you're not signed in, please go ahead and sign in. For people following online, especially. Yeah, so the link for attendance will be shared on the Zoom and on YouTube as well for people to click directly. If you're here, you've not signed in, please do go ahead. So welcome once again. It's going to be another exciting time together. We had a lot of fun last class, I believe, right? So we learned to cover introduction to Python, we covered introduction to AI in the last class. So, but if this is your first class, don't be afraid, you can catch up on the video. There's a quiz already that we have done and we have released that you can follow up on. All right, great. So that's just a brief recap. When we get into the hands-on session, which will resume immediately, we will also cover that. So I believe that my colleagues, like I mentioned, they are on Zoom, they are on YouTube. So if you have questions, people following online, go ahead and ask, or on the WhatsApp chat room as well. Okay, great. So let's get started. Very important information is for certification. So I know that we had a lot of questions about certification and how that's going to go. So these are the requirements. So there's going to be certificates available for every for this training, right? For everyone. But we're going to give a certificate of participation, right? And if you want that, you must complete the course. And to complete it, these are the requirements. I mean, of the daily quiz, you must complete at least 8 of the 12. That amounts for 40% of the attendance. And then you must also actually attend, and you attend by signing in, right? So we share the QR code. I'm sure all of us here physically must have signed in at the door, right? Awesome. So we will sign in, and for people following online, you can sign in via the document that we shared Yeah, so all the details are right on there. Please make sure that you sign in. All right. So someone is asking on Zoom for link for the attendance. So the link for the attendance is the same link every day. It's the same as the one used last week. So you can access that and use that as well. Okay. All right. So I'll be following the chat here so that you can ask your questions on Zoom and I'll take them immediately. Okay, great. And the last thing is the cargo competition. It's a cargo competition. How many of us have experience with cargo? How many of us? Awesome. So we're going to have a cargo competition to complete this training, and that will amount for 50% of your certificate criteria. So there's going to be a minimum total requirement for certification at 70%. That means you must get some 70% from your attendance. So you must get your 70% from your attendance. You must get what now? So pick your 70%. That means you must complete cargo. You must at least complete your attendance. That's another 10%, and your daily quiz. Right. So the quiz will be scored, of course. Attendance means once you get 6 of 12 classes, you know that you have your 10%, right? And let's see what else. Your cargo competition. Now, when you submit, that will be your 50%. So please let's pay attention to this and know that once we check this out, and even for the IDs too. So because the IDs, as people are registering, the IDs will be issued because I can see. Okay, so the cargo competition, so we'll get to that. We're going to cover what the cargo competition is, what we'll be doing there in a class. Okay, great. So let's get into the class session for today. How many of us are excited? So for us here, if you are just joining today, my colleagues will help you out, see if you need any installation, like we shared via the mail. Everything you need installed is an Anaconda, and if you have access to internet, you can use Google Colab. So if you have access to internet, you can use Google Colab rather than install, or you just go and use your Anaconda. All right. So Moses, Olale, do you have a question? Just type it on the chat. So if you have a question, you can just type it on the chat and I'll take it. Okay. All right. So all right. Can we see here? Okay. All right. Abdullah Musa says he's excited. That's wonderful. Okay, so we are good to go. So last class, I'll do a quick recap on what we learned in the last class. So last class, basically, we covered exercises, we covered arithmetic in Python, we covered what Python is, right? And then we moved to expressions, data types, which is what we're catching on today. We talked about what Python is, we talked about AI generally, we talked about what else? Talked about the operators in Python, right? And we did this little class activity. Do you remember? So this was the last thing that we did in the class, and we'll be starting from there today. So did anyone have any issues with any of the class activities before we move on? Did anybody have any issues? Yeah, so please use the chat to ask your questions if you're on Zoom, so that your questions can be answered here. Okay. Okay, can we? Okay, so we're all good. All right, so let's get into it for today. Right, so let's start our engines. Open your Jupyter Notebook, open your Colab, whatever you're following on. Please, if you don't have okay, so the recording for the first class, like we mentioned, is available already. You can use the info pack that we shared to access that. All right. So the attendance link and all the details, you can find them always on the info pack that we shared. Okay, so I'll just wait a few minutes for us all to get our Jupyter notebook up and our engines running. Okay, are we good? All right. Okay, we're starting right away. So we'll move to parentheses or brackets. So like I mentioned, if this is your first class, you're missing something, something isn't clear, please, you can use the recording for the last class to just catch up. It's really simple with that. It was a basic introduction. You'll get it really simple, and you can always follow up questions on the chat if you have any issues. All right? Okay. So they were starting from parentheses or brackets. And basically, like we know, parentheses are used to denote or to group operations. Yes? If you have questions, just indicate and questions will be taken, or reach out to any of my colleagues. All right. Okay, so moving on. Parentheses or brackets. So remember our board math in mathematics, right? Please, feedback is really important. Let's communicate. Okay, so the same way, the only difference is here it's going to be bed mass, and it's just that. So brackets first, exponentiation, division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. Really simple. So an expression like 3 times 2 plus 3, and we know that the part of the expression within the parentheses that is 2 plus 3 will be evaluated first, right? And the result will be 3 times 15, 50. All right. So let's try some examples out. So like I said, it's hands-on, it's totally hands-on. So let's get into it. So try this out, and we'll see why it's important for us to do our brackets. So 3 times 2 plus 3. If you run that, it should give you 15. What if we had you see that? See that it's different. So if 3 times 2 plus 3 without the brackets is going to give us 9, but when we put the brackets, we see that it gives us 15, and that's because of the board mass, as we discussed, that there is a priority given to operations, and the first one goes to bracket, next is exponentiation, next is division, basic board mass like we learned in school. All right, another example, let's try this out. 2 raised to power 2 plus 1. The answer should be 5. Confirm that you can do that. Try it out, get used to the layout, get used to your controls. All right. Okay, how many of us got this right? 3 plus 2 times 6 minus 4. You have a question? 10, right? Okay, 10, good. All right. So let's try this. 2 into 3 plus 1. as if we're doing our normal mathematics. What does it say? You should get an error. That what? There's an error. What type error? INT object is not callable, right? But now, what we actually want to do is, normally in mathematics, we can just say 2 into, I mean, now when you put 2 or you put a dot, it means multiplication, right? We know that in mathematics, but you have to include the operator when you are coding in Python. So let's try that now, and we should have a correct answer. No errors. So as you code, please, we might be getting errors, we might be getting, all those, but don't let that discourage you at all. You can always ask questions in the group chat. There are people that will help you, and you can always also check on Google, YouTube. You'll find many instructional videos on how to solve most of the coding problems that you will have as you get started. All right, so let's see. We get an error because we did not add the operator that we shared. Next one, let's try this 3 times. What we want to do is 3 times 3 in brackets 3 plus 2, right? So how are we going to do that? As 3 times you open the bracket. These 2 simple examples are also very important so that we get used to the layout, we get used to our controls. And it basically works anyway. You can see different examples, 6 minus 4 plus 2. Okay, this one is a bit more complex. 3 plus 2 times 6 minus 4 plus 2. And we should get 12. Remember that again. Yes, 12. All right. Okay. So are we clear on that? The operations, they make sense, right? Yeah, it's quite intuitive, really. Python is a very simple language and quite intuitive in that it follows from normal speech process, how we talk, how we do normal mathematics, just to know the syntax and how that will go. Okay, so comments in Python. So we need to add comments to our code, right? And it's important. Why? You need to remember a line of code after you've left it. How many of us have been coding before? Quite a good number of us from last class. But if you're all beginners, it's very important, even as an expert, if you've been coding before, it's your first time, that you comment your code. It's a very good practice. It will help you to remember what you are doing, because you will forget. I know you feel like, I wrote the code now, but so you don't end up in a situation where it's only your computer that remembers what you did. You yourself, you don't. It's always good to comment your code. For example, as we learn, you can use, imagine you use, okay, we'll see some examples. All right. It also makes those people that you share your code with to better understand. For example, every comment you see, all this text in this code is actually a markdown, right? And it's a kind of comment that you can use in Jupyter Notebook. Imagine I gave you this entire notebook without any text, any explanatory text. Yeah, you will be able to see, but there won't be that feeling of communication, right? So comments in our code is really good, right? Good for documentation purpose. And how do we add comments? Simply put the comment, and you put the hash. So it's whatever you do in Python and you put the hash before it, it becomes a comment in your code window. So if I say hash 2 plus 3, nothing is going to happen because it's a comment and the computer will ignore it. So it's ignored, it's not doing, it's just for maybe adding some explanatory text to your code. So let's say something like, I want to add 2 numbers, and I say 2 plus 3 down. That's fine. That makes sense, right? You see that nothing is done here. It's totally ignored. Here you can literally put anything. This is DSN. This is fun. What else? You can comment anything really. Anything can be commented. Anything, right? I love this class. So comments can take numbers, can take, you can use them to store important things. Many times when you want to change some line of code, you can, instead of deleting the code, you can comment the old code out and just type in the new code. So for example, if I want to say, because like we'll learn when we get to expressions, imagine I want to say 2 plus 3. I also want to say 5 plus 5 plus 6 plus 4 plus 65. Now, this is 85, right? But I want to run this time and leave the top one out. I just remove the hash and you see that I've not lost this line of code. So if I need it again, all I have to do really is what? Erase the comment and put it back here and we're good. Yeah. So running your cells, for those of us starting, if you have any issues running your cells, because I realize I just remember now that we have quite a number of first time. So how do you comment example 1? Okay, so how do you to comment is just you put a hash before whatever it is you're typing. And once you type it out, you'll be good. All right. Okay, so now let's look at how we import packages. We'll talk about that later. So to do square root, because working in Python, there's no direct square root function, but you can get that with NumPy. And one of the reasons why we use Anaconda, or you can use Jupyter Notebook. If you are using on your phone now, you might have a bit of a problem. If you're not using Jupyter Notebook on your phone, or you don't have maybe Miniconda installed. But if you do, you will not have a problem with this. So if you're using Anaconda comes installed with some packages we'll be using like NumPy and those other things that we'll cover soon. So just type now on your computer, import NumPy. The same way it's type lowercase, import NumPy, and let's do some square root. Import NumPy. Let me try something here. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. And once you import NumPy, we'll learn more about importing packages as we go on. But one very beautiful thing about importing in Python is you can import and you can assign that import to a variable. What do I mean? I can import NumPy as so once you type NumPy, you call the function square root, that's sqrt. So numpy.sqrt, and you open your bracket, put whatever you want to square root inside, and it's gonna run. How many of us have gotten that? Did you get that? Any errors? No errors. Good. That means our Anaconda is well installed. Okay, so I can import, what I was saying was you can import your packages, your dependencies, literally as anything, as long as it doesn't violate the rules that we stated earlier that, can't be, as we learn, variables cannot start with numbers and other things. I can import NumPy as DSN, really, and so NumPy is not a square root command. NumPy has the square root command. So NumPy is a scientific package that has a lot of statistical functions and usabilities. Yes, I have a question. Yes, the result I got was 0.0. Yeah, so yeah, let me do mine again. So it's 2.0 actually. So what I did was I converted this float to an integer. I was just trying to check something. So, but you should get a float. All right, so you see what I did now? It's not NumPy here, it's what? DSN, because I imported my number. What's your name? Mansoor. I didn't get that. Mansoor. Mansoor, can you spell it? M-A-N-S-O-R. I can import NumPy as Mansoor, and it's going to work anyway. So whatever you tell the computer, whatever you assign to it, will be fine, and that works. You're welcome. And that works. Okay. All right. So let's start that again. So import numpy.sqrt. Okay, and we are good. All right, let's move on. You can see that when we use the hash, it tells us that what? It explains what we are doing down here. And then anybody that is reading this can understand that what's going on is we are simply trying to do what? Get the square root of a number. Now imagine if I maybe mistakenly did not put this hash. You see that the colors scheme has changed. It's no longer a comment. If I run this, I will get an error. It says invalid syntax because it's reading that line as a code and not as a comment. So this can easily be fixed by what? Simple hash. All right. So comparison operators, we're getting warmer, right? We're building up, we're getting warmer. So comparison operators, these are simply, what we use to compare values. You can compare different types of values. You can compare one value to another based on the condition, and the results will be logical. When we say it's logical, it's either true or false, right? But now we're getting to quantum computing when it can be normally it's either true or false, but now it can be true, it can be false at the same time. It's a great time to be alive. The results can either be true or false, which is known as a Boolean. I'm sure you might have some understanding or previous knowledge from Boolean or algebra, right? Okay, so what are the most common comparison operators we'll be coming across as we go along with this course or on our programming journey? The first one is the double equal to, which is always when I tell you, I still make this mistake sometimes. To know if something is equal to another in Python, it's not equal to, but double equal to. Yes, it's double equal to and not, is this double, right? And not this. There's a difference between this and this in Python. And the difference is the double is a comparison operator and the single is an assignment operator. We'll see that when we move down to assignment. All right, so double equal to and not equal to is the exclamation and the equal to. So it's not equal to, greater than is our usual greater than, and less than is our usual less than. Greater than or equal to usual, less than or equal to usual as well. So let's look at some examples. So is 5 equal to 3? Obviously, we know that is not, right? So you see, we commented is 5 equal to 3, that doesn't run. So all you need to do is 5 equal to 3 and to give you the results as true or false. So, but is 5 not equal to 3? Yes. That's a yes, right? So if I use the not equal to, I should get true. Now, what if I said this? I'm going to get an error. Why? It says cannot assign to literal because this is an assignment operator and not a comparison operator. Is 5 greater than 3? True. What else? Is 5 less than 3? False. Okay. Let me leave this as this. Okay. And 5 should be equal to 5, right? That should give us a true. So we compare whether two numbers, 5 and 7, are equal. Obviously, they are not. Yeah, so we're going to get to data types as we move on. We are still in comparisons. We'll get to data types. Someone just ask, Boolean is a data type? Yes. So just step by step. Let's take it one step at a time. Okay. We still have a good number to places to cover. Okay. So quick activity for everyone to do. On your own, just write a short code. You should do, from what we've done right now, you can do this. We've even done this already. So write a code to compare 5 and 6. This is a simple comparison code, just to show that you remember what we just did now. 5 and 6. The code compares 5 and 6. So is 5 greater than 6? Is 5 less than 6? Is 5 equal to 6? Yes, we know the answer in our head, but let's see what's code that. If you have any issues, just raise your hand. It's going to help out. Okay, CC3, I see you raise your hand. If you have your hand raised, just ask your question in the chat so I can take it right here. Okay? All right. Are we all good? Are we able to crack that? So, any issues? There shouldn't be any issues. The code to compare 5 and 6 is just as simple as 5. If 5 greater than 6, we should give us a false, right? 5, let's try less than 6, give us true. 5 equal to 6 should give us false. 5 not equal to 6. When we get to variables, we see why this is important. It makes 5 is always equal, is going obviously less than 6, right? But imagine if I have previously told the computer that a variable is storing 6, and I'm thinking the variable is storing 5. A simple comparison will reveal that something is wrong. So these comparisons are very useful for checking status of variables, checking status of even maybe the result of an expression that should be something that we're expecting a result. Is it what I'm expecting? If I'm expecting that your ID should start with DSZ AIE, and your ID starting with what now? Maybe AIE and not DSZ AIE. I can check, right? All I have to say is, let's see something like I can say DSZ AIE. Is it what? And let's say you are giving us just AIE. Yes, AIE is there, and there are other, we'll talk about regular expressions, rejects. Maybe I don't believe when we get to machine learning. But imagine this to give us what? 4. That's why some people, when you enter, so something like this is running back into the form, right? When you enter your membership, your SM membership ID now, yeah, same as well, your class registration number, right? And sometimes it might tell you that it's not the format. Something like this is what is running at the back of the form. It's checking, does it have this? But of course, it's rejects, and that one checks through everything that does it actually contain the pattern. Okay, so this person that is saying is not getting any answer. I'm guessing, are you using your mobile phone or your computer? Because it's really important. If you are using the mobile and you're not using Jupyter Notebook, you're using a Python engine on your mobile. Like we're using Jupyter Notebook here, like we mentioned in the first class. One of the reasons we're using Jupyter Notebook is the fact that we can do what we just did now and get instant results. 5 plus 4. We get the results outputted right under the block of code. If you're using your normal Python engine, you will get no results. It's not that it's not working, but you have not told the computer to output that result. So you will have to save your results in a variable and then print the results if you're using the normal Python engine. But if you're using Jupyter Notebook, you don't need to do that. It will output the results for you automatically. That's the beautiful part. That's why it makes learning so easy, right? Right? Imagine if we had to learn with that black screen or white screen and then you type and then you open another window, your ID. It's a bit tougher. So this is simple. Okay. All right, so not equal to works same as what we've learned. Now what? Is 5 not equal to 10? We'll get it. 200 not equal to 100. Okay, someone got it. Awesome. So we've done that. Greater than operator. I believe we've run through all of this. Greater than is the same thing. It's the same thing. We're going to do an activity later on. So we're still going through the basics. And please, if you have any issues here, let us begin to solve them so that because very soon, the reason we are going through all this is because we're going to be combining a lot of these things when we get to machine learning. You can see a single code that compares different things, like is this equal to this, it's going to start looking like a lot of symbols very soon. So it's very important that you understand what everything is doing at this level. Okay, so class activity. Write the code to compare if there is the reverse of the above code still holds. That is, for this one that we did, where is it? Is 100 less than 1,000. So can we write the code to compare if 1,000 is less than 100? I feel like vacating my seat for someone to come and type it up here on the screen. Does someone want to do that? Do you have any takers? So just write a code to check if 1,000 is less than 100. And it's really simple. No, that's what, like I said, the beginning of Python. The code is exactly as it is in English. So if I just say 1,000 less than 100, what am I going to get? False. No, what now? Like we saw in the first class, it's really simple. Greater than or equal to works the same way, right? Less than or equal to works exactly the same way. All right. Thank you, CC3. Please, I think let's join the classes for people joining online, especially on Zoom. You can join with your name so that it makes it easy to identify. All right. Okay. Okay. Data types in Python. So we talked about a data type above actually, and that's the Boolean data type. But now we're going to be looking at all the data types exactly, what they are, how they work, and why we need to know them. Okay, so Python is an object-oriented programming language, and that means that we have different objects in Python. Basically, the funny thing is Python is so beautiful that everything in Python is actually an object. We'll learn about that later, what an object is. But you should know that everything in Python is an object, and that just means that it has inherited classes, it has certain attributes akin to every everything you see in Python. And that's what makes it so beautiful, because we are able to do quite a lot with that. Okay, so words or text in Python are known as strings, or str for short. Okay, so that means there's a difference in Python between this and this. And strings are denoted with this double apostrophe. That's how you denote a string. Double quote, sorry, I said apostrophe, sorry. Apostrophe is single. So the double quote denotes your string. So anything within the double quote, and actually anything within the single quote, which is the apostrophe as well, is denoted as a string. You see that the color changes. It's the string. It's actually a string. The difference is, imagine I want to actually include the double or the single in my string. As we see earlier on, is why we need these two. We'll see that later on. That was just to give an example of that. So numbers without decimals are known as integers. I mean, you see, it's just normal mathematics. And -1, 0, positive or negative whole number is an integer, right? So any positive or negative whole number will give us an integer. Numbers with decimal are known as floats. And quick question, the division operator in Python will always return what data type? Thank you. Now, when we talk about values like true or false, they're known as Boolean. So just a recap of the data types. Please just ask your question by typing it in the chat, and we'll take it. All right. So the data types are, when we talk about numbers, a number can either be what? An integer or a float. And texts are strings. They must what? Start with quotes. Boolean takes either two options. There can only be two options. A Boolean can either be what? True or false. Unless you're doing quantum computing and it can be true and false at the same time. But no, we're not doing that. So we can learn the data type of any object or whatever it is we are doing in Python with the type function. So the function will return int if it's an integer, float if it's a float, character or text if it's a string, and Boolean, which will be bool. So let's try that. So let's look at the integer data type. So if we say the type function, I want to know the data type of a result. For example, I want to imagine I'm expecting an integer. Have I got an integer? All I need to do is type. That's a function. Open your quote. In Jupyter Notebook, once you press the first bracket, it should open the second one for you automatically. And if I type 50, it's going to be an integer, right? Should it be an integer? Yeah. Yes. Because it doesn't have a decimal point. If I type 50.0, that's a what now? Float. Awesome. It becomes a float. If I type what are the other types we have? If I type let me use someone's name. What's your name? Please, you have to spell it for me. A-D. Okay. U-R. G-B. E-M-I. Okay, I do right, baby. Are you sure? That's what you said. Yeah. I have done something totally different. All right, so let's say what type is Adura baby? Is he a boy? Oh, wow, we got an error. Why? I thought we typed the name there. No, it's not a string yet. Yeah. Now we get string. These little things, you'll be surprised they kind of yeah. Okay, yeah, so the shortcut for run is you hold shift and you press enter. Shift enter. All right. Okay, so we're good. Float data types. Let's take a look at the float data types. So pi 3.142 is going to give us a float. Even if it's minus, it's still going to give us a float. Strings, we've seen that already. I am from Oyo State. No, I'm not. Give us that type. Now let's look at that again, like we did. This would give us. See that the from changes already to because from is a predefined word in Python. We see that when we get to some of these things that you cannot use from as a variable name. You shouldn't. You can't actually. Python will let you use it now. But by the time you are trying to, we'll see when we, let me get ahead of myself, we'll see when we get to something a little bit more advanced. So if we're going this will give us an error. But if we simply said, quote it, it'll print it out for us. And we find the type, it has to be a string. Okay. So that is good. Yeah, I like this one. Python is so simple. It's so simple. I mean, it's always simple at first, right? But then we don't be scared. Python is really simple. I was just joking with a friend that I had to do some coding in R, right? And at some point I was just like, please just let me go back to my Python and sit down and be happy. But R is so useful and so good. So I think I will stick a bit with R. Hi, Titilola. Okay, I'll take that again. So the data types we've talked about the different kinds of data types. We established that we have numbers, we have texts, and we have Boolean. And the exact data types that they are integers. Integers are positive or negative whole numbers. Floats. Floats are what now? Those with decimals. Strings are texts that have what? That have quotation. And Boolean are logic values of true or false. It's either true or false, either 1 or 0. Okay. Integers, positive or negative, whole numbers. If you use the type function, you can know what data type any value you are entering into Python is. Use the type for different types of these values, and you keep getting their data type. So it's just as simple. Okay. I think that covers it. All right. Yes. Like we mentioned earlier, we said that everything in Python is an object, right? Okay. So if we said, let's know the type. Okay, so let's try this. I like this one. Let's try this. So at your end, just type print. Okay, so a brief introduction. I like this tip here that on the print function. So, and like I mentioned earlier, especially for people using normal Python engines on your phone, I see you're using a tab. You're using okay. I'm sure that you will not be able to get output for your codes, right? Unless you use the print function. And the reason is that's exactly when you instruct Python to give an output. So I only get an output from Python when I instruct it to do so, because the computer will only do what it's told to do, right? But that's why we're learning AI, so that the computer can outthink us, so that we can give the computer data and the computer can make logical decisions on its own. So let's look at print. If I say print, whatever really, hello, I am from Kano and I can speak Hausa, whatever you put in the print function will be printed. So if I say print, this is AI for beginners. Oops, we have an error. Why? It's not a string person. Print this is AI for beginners. We're good. Whatever you put within the print parentheses will be printed, outputted in your code. And it's very useful. You can always put it in between your code to output something. You can always put it in between your code to check that the code is actually doing what you want it to do, as we see as we go on. So if we printed the type, so print, okay, type the print, open the bracket, type, and then open another bracket. Hello, I am from Kano and I can speak Hausa. String. If you print that, you see that not normally when we put our type function, it just tells us string, tells us integer. But now that we put the print function and put the type in it, you see that it says class string. And that's because it's actually a class, as we'll find out, because the print function, the type function on its own, has a line of print inside that actually outputs this. What do I mean? We'll begin to find out when we get to functions, when we say something like def, I won't call it type, I'll call it type, right? And let's say something like stuff. Just want to show something about how functions works, what we just saw now. And I say Okay, let's try 4. Let's just let's say integer. No. Let's call it stuff too. And we can see something like is stuff plus 4. Right? So that means anything that we put here is going to be outputted. Now I can run this. Now I've created a function called typo. Now whenever I run this typo, see what happens. Typo, and I put 3. Say there's no output, right? Okay, now I come back to my function. I say return that. I come back here, I run this. I get an answer. And the answer is what? 7, because what this function does is anything I put in between the brackets is going to add 4 to it. Right? And then it will return that answer. Okay?
Alright, so that means you declare type as string, right?
Yeah, no. So we're not declaring type as string. We're not declaring type as string. Type already has its own inherited functions. Typo, yeah, I think no. What I just did is I said typo is the name of the function. I gave the function a name, right? And this stuff is just a variable as we see on them. I'm taking us a bit ahead now, just to get us excited a bit. And this stuff is really a variable. It can be anything, but if it's not a number, you cannot add a letter to a number, right? It makes no sense. Obviously, so the Python it will not make any sense. I'm getting an error. So as long as the stuff is a number, you will learn on how you can make sure that only an integer would be used here. But like I can type anything, right? But we get an error. So where am I really going is by the time I put the return function here, it's actually going to then give me an answer. So whatever I type in stuff, it's going to add 4 to it and then it will return that to me. If I do typo, it's the same way. I'm trying to show something on the line when we say type 4. You get it? All these things are all functions that have been pre-built in Python for us to just use and enjoy. So if I say again, so this is actually what I wanted to show now. Print okay. Now okay. Now, what do you think is going to happen when I run this now? Who wants to take a guess? By the time I run this my function, typo, it's going to say, you have defined the number, and the number is 3. I will now add 4 to this number. And 3 plus 4 is what? So this is how you can make Python do a little bit of cool stuff. This is just a very simple demonstration of stuff you can do. Yes, question?
The initial code you wrote,
yeah.
I post up, answer that.
Mm-hmm.
So I did it and it said name error.
Name error. What?
The code is not defined.
Yeah, so you see, I have def here.
Yeah, put def.
Def. Did you run the cell? Did you run the function cell? Run the function cell again. What if you put typo 3 behind the whole def? Yeah, you get an error. Def must come before. Def is letting Python know that I am declaring the function. We'll get it. I just, once in a while, like this, just let's go ahead of ourselves, see what we can do. Let's get excited. So that it doesn't look at me. I'm just learning to add 1 and 2. When you can combine all these little things, you can begin to create very beautiful things. Like, for example, by next class, we'll create something that looks like a password generator that will ask you for a password. If your password is wrong, it will say, no, your password is wrong. We'll do something like that in the next class to combine all these things that we're learning. Okay. All right. So this is just, and we can say typo anything really. Typo 5. Okay. All right. You see, you have defined the number 5. I will now add 4 to this number, and the answer will be 9. I can even say define another function as final, another variable as final, and I will say that final is ANS, right? I'll make the string. I'll say final is your result is so very simply. And I won't return ANS again, return final now. And by the time I run this now, we get a different result. Oh, look at that. Quick one. Who can quick? You see that it tells us your result is 9, right? But you see that there is no space between is and 9. Who can guess why? Is, you see that after my is, I just added that space. If you don't add it, Python will add it for you. Unlike when you're using the print function, you don't need to add it between different things you're printing. But here you will have to add it because I'm using a concatenate function there. We'll learn about that. We're going ahead of ourselves a bit just to get excited. So you see now, the function is looking a bit more cool, right? It's not just something simple. Now I say type of 5. It says you have defined the number 5. I will now add 4 to this number. Your result is 9. Okay, so let's move on. Boolean data type. Yeah. Don't worry, we'll get to functions. We're not teaching functions yet. This is just to let us know that what we are learning can do something. All right, so INT, we talked about that. So yeah, type 4 is an integer. So print function enables us to print our results, output our results. So if I say print 4 plus 6, I'll get what? Output to be 10, right? I can make it look a little bit more interesting and say print answer is outside the quotation, put a comma to separate the different print values you are printing. 4 plus 6. See, that works. I can still say after 4 plus 6 and say, I can still say this is the answer, right? I can still go on. Don't come and say, I love this class. Oh, that's not spend of class. Okay. Yeah, so how can I break a sentence into 2 different lines? Good question. So what if I said this? 2 different lines. So it's called a new line, just a new line string. Just you put your apostrophe, your backslash, and n. Whenever you put that in between strings, the string will be printed on the next line. Tell the computer to print it on the next line. Tells Python to print it on the next line. It's the same for most programming language, I believe. I know it's the same. I know it's the same in C, but I'm not sure. I don't know about R, but it's the same in most. It's the question on Zoom. Without having to use print twice. You see, I didn't use print twice, so that means I just answered that question. So I didn't have to use print twice. All I did was include this in between my prints, and you get it. I can make it 3 different lines, right? Let's say put it here and say what, and as I extend this answer. All right. So Boolean data type is either true or false. So type true will always give you bool, and type false will always give you false. In some cases, many functions they will convert your 1 or 0 directly into a Boolean, right? Because we know that 1 usually stands for what? True, and 0 for false. Yes. That will be very, as a matter of fact, most of the classification problems we are going to face in this class and in machine learning for most of the easier data sets or simple data sets, you see your response variable, or let's say your target variable, will most likely be 1 or 0. For example, the Titanic data set, people that survived, for them, their survived column will be 1. People that didn't survive, the survived column will be what? 0. So when you are predicting, what you are trying to predict is this value 1 or is it 0? And how sure is my model that this person died or didn't die? I think maybe perhaps we can even take a pre-cargo before the major cargo, and let's see that. What do you guys think? Is that a good idea? We can look into that. Okay, so 8 greater than 6, true, all these things we did before. All right, cool. Now moving on, the next thing we're going to look at is variable assignment. And I've done a bit of that already. What I did here, telling the computer that ANS is equal to, remember I mentioned earlier that there's a difference between equal to and double equal to. If I use the equal to here, let's look at it. If I use the equal to here, now see that the diagram, right? There was no errors. Was there an error? No. But by the time you run the function, that's when you see the error. Name error. The time you name error, name ANS is not defined. So we have to define it. So that is an assignment. I've told the computer here that ANS, let ANS be equal to stuff plus 4. Now let final be equal to this string plus ANS as a string. So you can always convert integers to strings or strings to, if the string is actually a number, you can convert it to an integer. For example, this is a string, right? This is a string, but this is a number. What's the difference? At all. Yeah, so that means I can, now if I said 1, sorry, no. If I said 1, this is a string. If I said type, what should we get? If I said this, we should get what? Now, what if I said what's going to be the answer? Who has an idea what just happened? I converted the string 1 to the integer version, which is 1. But do you think I can convert this to an integer? Or is it possible? Normally it's not possible. We'll get an error normally. But now that I think about it, we can actually, in fact, I'm making an assignment. Let's make an assignment. When we do some more things, let's make an assignment to see how we can actually run this and to run properly. Because then I can just think of a simple way to run this and to run. Okay, but that's about that. Okay, the Boolean part Ibadan, Lagos. So the Boolean part, like we said, this is assignment and this is comparison. I'll do that. Let me make that very bold. Any confusion so far? Are we on the same page, everyone? Yeah, please go ahead and ask. Yeah, we'll get there. We are not there yet. We'll get there. We'll get there. Right? That was just to all right. I believe this should make it super clear. Some issues with the def function. Please leave the def function alone. We are not there. We'll get there. We'll get there soon. We'll get there soon. We'll get there soon. Okay. All right. So. All right. Okay. So I think I need to really slow down. I think I'm following our pace here. A lot of people are following online. Might be a bit harder for them. So we'll reduce our pace. All right. So Boolean data type, like I said, is either true or false. And I'll explain here that there's a difference between equal to and a double equal to. Symbol is an assignment operator, and the double is what? Comparison operator. So when we check the data types, we get that. Yeah, so the exercises will be getting complicated, right? But that's how we learn. That's why we're taking it one step at a time. Okay, so let me quickly address this. So the student ID is different from your AI Plus membership ID. And that's why we sent a separate link to check your student ID. The student ID is for this class. Your AI Plus membership ID is your DSN AI Plus membership ID that you will use to access DSN privileges and many other things as an AI Plus member. And that one does not change. Your student ID changes for different programs. For example, having a webinar later today, there may be different IDs if you're using IDs. We're having another program, bootcamp, there will be a different ID. But if AI Plus membership ID stays the same as long as you're an AI Plus member. Okay? But I know a number of people, we must have been typing that into the student ID and we must have been invoked. So that's that. So this is just comparing two strings. Ibadan is not Ikeja. We know that, right? But comparing that in Python is going to be that Ibadan, and we say not equal to Ikeja. Remember, exclamation equal to is not equal to, and it's true because Ibadan is not equal to Ikeja. And if I tell the computer Ibadan is Ikeja, I get a false. So the recording of this class will be available again on YouTube, so you can go over it, right? To understand, you can take it slower. Okay? And Lagos is not equal to Can. Right. So I'll give us some time to maybe compile questions if we have any. So if you have questions right now, you can compile them on the WhatsApp group after the session, yes, but you can drop them now on the chat. I'm talking to people online on YouTube because we'll take a break for like 2 minutes. We've been in class for 1 hour. We'll take a break for a few minutes. Just stretch our legs and just a short break, and then you can see if you have any questions, you have anything you want to ask, you can just note it, and when we resume, we'll take all those questions and then we'll move on. Okay? Right, we'll start with variable assignment. All right, so let's take a short break. Okay, hello everyone. Hello, break is over. For our online participants, I hope okay, I hope we jump if you have questions. Please can we continue? Because the slide is not we've not started. Yeah, waiting for our okay.
You're free to share your experience after that is over.
All right. Okay, so we're starting right away. Yeah, we were on a break. We took a break, like I mentioned. We'll be taking about 10-minute breaks in between every hour, just to all right. So we're starting. All right. On your marks, get Python in and let's go. All right, so variable assignment. In simplest terms, a variable is a way, I'll just read this out and then I'll explain. A variable is how the computer stores a value so that it can be used over and over again without having to repeat oneself. A variable is just like a container that stores a value. For example, below we see that age is stored 15 and the value 15 becomes the age, and also we'll see more of that below. So variable is how we store values in Python or programming language, and the reason it's called a variable is because it's like an empty box that you throw something in, and it can only contain one thing, one object. Now there are different kinds of objects, but it can only contain one object. So I cannot assign two things to one variable. It's like your name, your identity. Unless you have clones or you do maybe calculation or something, and you can have multiple versions of yourself, shadow clones or something. But you are just you, right? And even if they have a namesake, that person is not you, right? So you can only have one version of a variable that will be that. The moment you reassign that variable, if you have questions, please just drop it on the chat. If the moment you reassign that variable, it has changed. It's a variable because you can change it. You can change the value. That's called variable. You can change the value. We're going to go into hands-on, but I just want to get the concept out there. Think of it like a box. You throw something in there, it's there forever, unless you remove that thing and put something else inside. Clear? Yeah, I guess. So let's see an example. And to create a variable, you use the assignment operator and you use any combination of letters, numbers, just it cannot start with a number. Variable name starts at the number. You're going to get an error if you try this. But you can start with a string, you can end with numbers, you can have underscores, you can have hyphen, right? Because that is an operator, or they can have underscore and all those other things. We'll see some rules down below. So the Telegram group is for AI Plus membership ID, like I mentioned, not this program. If you're not on WhatsApp, you'll find links to the WhatsApp at the end of this session on the info pack. Okay, so back to variable assignment. Age is equal to 15. And if we print age, so that's why it's print. Remember I said print is to show something, output something. I want to print the result, whatever is in age. I want to know what is inside age, right? And that will be print age. Now you see that there are no parentheses around this age because I'm not printing. Let's see what will happen. If I print age, what should be the result when I print age? 15. Because right now, age is no longer just age. Age is now what? A variable containing something. So every time I point at age, I'm actually pointing at 15. Is that clear? Is that clear? Okay. So, but if I put the quotation and I print age here, what's printed? Why? I'm printing a totally different thing. This is a string. Now I can say, now check this out. I can say right? If I print this, okay, yeah. Okay, so power very structured. All right, so if I print this, who wants to give a guess what we printed? The string age we printed, right? But if I now change this to the variable age, what we printed again? 15. So variable names, super important. Once you store something in your variable, remember the typo function I created? You now see how I created the variable called ANS, right? I stored what's inside, stuff and for. All right. Okay. All right. So that's about that. We can print age. And even if you just type age in your Jupyter notebook, it's going to give you a 15. Yeah. So by the time it's asked the computer what type of value is inside age, what's the type of the variable, the data type it is, what do we get? It's an integer. What if we said some age? We've declared some age. So what type is some age? What? String. Awesome. So country, let country be Nigeria. You see that it's the equal to and not what? Double equal to. No, it's single equal to, it's an assignment. If country is Nigeria, if I print country, I will get a type of country is. Now, what if I said see, you can use anything. I'll use my name now. Yes. Nigeria, right? Who will tell what's going to be the result of? If you're online, you can also drop your answer, right? I want to ask you. So if you're online, drop the answer in the chat. So I've declared a variable called Fumi, and I said Fumi is Nigeria, and I said country. If I run this code, what would be the result? If I run this code, what would be the result?
False.
What?
False. Error.
If I run this code, okay, so there are three options. There are three options. If the answer will be error, raise your hand. Huh? Raise your hand. Okay, I see true, I see error. If the answer will be true, raise your hand. If the answer will be false, raise your hand. I'm not sure, raise your hand. I just want to go home, raise your hand. Okay. All right, let's see what the answer will be. Wow, it's a name error. Nigeria is not defined. You see now? Now let's make this a string. If I run this now, so error people are correct. So if I run this now, what will be the answer again? To be true now. Okay. And why is it true? Remember, we've already said country is containing Nigeria up here. We now said let Fumi also contain what? Let Fumi be Nigeria. And now we said is country Nigeria. Now is country. What's going to be the answer when we run this?
Error.
Okay, let's go again. Error, raise your hand. If you're on the chat, just drop it on the chat. Team error, let's see you. People for your team, please. I think we should, maybe by next week, we will start doing team same. Maybe the winning team will get free data or something. Yeah. People like that. But we have to think of people online. We can do maybe Kahoot. We'll do that. Okay. You know what? I'll create a slide. We'll take a pause, and at the end of this class, we'll do a short slide, please, and we'll see how we do. Okay. So, maybe we'll do that next class because of time. But it's going to be fun. I think we can do that next week. Should we do that? We can have a quiz here. We'll just see, so that we'll see who is who. So people are hiding under other groups. People are just so we'll see. Your name is going to be there. And we'll see how we're doing. So what's the answer? True. If it's true, raise your hand. Don't follow the multitude. If it's false, raise your hand. No. Be bold, right? Okay, let's write it and see what's the answer. It's true. Remember, we said Fumi is also Nigeria. We said here that Fumi is also Nigeria. Okay. So since Fumi is also Nigeria, it follows that country must be equal to. All right. Because in actual fact, what we are actually comparing here is just what Nigeria and. Because if we say it's simple, let's check it out. Let's say print country. It's Nigeria. Print Fumi. Is what? So when we say country equals Fumi, it has to be true. So, all right. Let's have a class activity, and you are going to do this by yourself, but you can please, if you're on the online you're following, please would like you to do this as well. So this is the activity, and you can discuss amongst yourselves, right? And what you are doing is this. What is your name? Right? You assign that value to a variable. How old are you? Assign it to the variable age. Are you male or female? Assign it to the variable gender. Look at the spellings. Make sure the spellings are just like it defines, so it's easy for us to follow and track our errors. What state did you come from? Assign it to the variable state. What language do you speak? Your main language. And some of us speak like 10 languages. You can just assign to the variable language. And if it's true or false, did you smile today? Assign the variable smile. So it should be true or false. Okay? I think if anybody in this class, you must have smiled today, so it should be true. All right? Okay. All right, let's do that. I'll give us 2 minutes for that. Okay, no. Let's have 4 minutes. So that's by 11:28. Oh, check that. Okay. So I'll just walk around now, see how we're doing. by the time you are done, if you've done this correctly, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 variables. Name should be a string, right? Age will be an gender will be state, language, smile. So I'm going to use some of these. So next activity, okay. Yes. Okay, are we all good? Let's just start on 9. I'm going to check everybody. All of you. Okay. Hello, everyone. Hi. So for people following online, we are having this peer discussion class activity. You're supposed to do it as well. So once you're done, you can just drop in the chat. Good. Okay, awesome. All right, so let's get into it. So if you have done this correctly, your age, when you say age, print age. So let's start with the first one was okay, age, right? Let me see it. Okay, let me look at this. Let's see what we've done. Just a sec. All right. Okay. Okay, so if you've done that, print your age and confirm. Let's start with name. So let's print the name. Now I have not done it, so I'll do it up here and we'll use that. Name is Funminiyi, right? If I print name, I can just type as if you've done the but for people following in other Python IDs, let's do it properly. Print name Funminiyi, that's correct. Okay. Next one is what? You can call it out for me. Age. Age is right, and we print that. Print age. Right. Okay. Cool. And is that someone has an error? Okay. Gender. It's male. Yeah, what to print? Print it. I was going to print male. Okay, we're good. Yeah, what else? What's the next one? States. I think we should use this. Print state. All right. Okay. And we have language. Let's be question. I like print. Question and smile. Should it be true or false? False, Abby. Don't smile right now. Okay, so I can now run this. So now, every time you call a variable and you use the assignment before it, the variable changes. What do I mean? We've already declared age as what? Your age, right? If we run this cell again, I declared my age. Let's print my age before was what? So if I print my age, I'll print my age now. So let's say, so print first declared age, because that's the first age I declared, is what? First declared age was 23. Okay? Now I now run this cell again. If I run this again, age becomes 15, because I have told the computer, let age now be 15. If I now say print second declared age, right? And we print age again. What's going to be the result if I print this? What will it be? It's 15. So whenever you reassign anything to a variable, it changes. Now, if I even say, we didn't put any constraints on what the type of data type, the data type age has to be. We didn't. So I can actually say age is a nice car. And second declared age becomes a nice car. It sounds funny and it sounds like, of course, age cannot be a nice car, right? But that's what happens when sometimes you are asked to supply your phone number on a form. And some people will type, I don't have a number, and to actually go through, because there's no constraint placed on that form to only allow numbers. But by the time you place a constraint, for example, when you fill out forms, you most likely will have to include your AI membership ID. You can't type anything else. And that's because the constraint has been placed on that form to ensure only a certain data type enters. So the same way as we learn, like I mentioned, we're going to do 2 projects, and we'll start from next week. We'll see how we can begin to put constraints on our code to make sure that, okay, this has to be an integer. Now, I'm thinking to just show us a little demo, but I don't want us to go too ahead because of other people that might not catch on, may get confusing. But I think this is clear, right? The assignment is simply done. Just call the variable again and assign it again. I can call age anything. You can even make age a Boolean, false. Now, what if I said, now remember, now let's take age back to what age should be. Let's call age. Yeah, so yeah, we're good. Now, next year, my age will be +1. So age +1. I can say age +1 in Python and I will get like a proper arithmetic answer. Why? Age is actually an integer, right? So that means I can treat it, whatever data type is stored in that variable, I can treat the entire variable as that data type. So I can say age +1 and I'll get 24. I can even say age times what? 2. I can say what? Age -4. Why? Because age is an integer. So whatever data type is stored in your variable, you can treat that variable as that data type. Is that clear? Show of hands coming to Zoom. Nice. Okay, great. People are following online. Big kudos to everyone following online. Really, you guys are amazing. We have hundreds of people following online. You guys are totally amazing. Well done. So next year, age for the last 2 years becomes what? -2. All right, so let's look at an example. Now we assign x as 4. Let's assign y as 6 and z as 8. Okay, are we good? Done this? All right. So instead of saying 4 + 6, I can say x + y. Right? Let's try it. X + y, and it becomes 10. Because x is what? And y is. I can say z minus x minus y. That will be what? Let's go to it. 8 minus 4 minus 6 should be what? Minus 2. Olympian mathematicians are in the house. Minus 2, correct. We can say x times z, and that will be, yep, x raised to power 2 will be what? Z modulo y will be, let's say z is 8. Cool, it should be 2. Div mode z and x should be correct. So that's working with variables, and we've used integers. Now let's see. Remember we did all this before. All right. Now you can assign multiple values to multiple variables at the same time in Python. As long as, so name, comma, I can call it Jamal. Notice that there's a comma after Jamal. On the left hand side of the equal to, I also have age. Notice here, there's a comma and there's the value age, gender, you see, country, right? So let's build this. My, say, Funminiyi. You can say male, and country. I'll make that here. Okay, we're good. So if I print name, I print age, I print gender, I print country, I should have exactly what I will have there. Okay? You can try that out, see how that works. Okay. Naming rules for variables. Now, let's look at the rules for naming variables. Now, some of them are not wrong in themselves. What do I mean? Some of them, it's not that they are, this is R. Right. Okay. So note that this should be an underscore, not a full stop. If you try to create your test as a variable, it would give you an error because dot is calling a function and test is not a function. Neither is grade even. So, oh wait, let me even define grade. It may work. Yeah, that's true. No, it shouldn't work. It shouldn't work. No. I'll tell you that test is not defined something. I don't test. Yeah, exactly. The extent to does cause an attribute of an object. So I can say st. I can say I've not got this list yet. Let's do that. So sample of acceptable variable names. You can say grade or test. You cannot call. You can't say call a variable grade test equals 5. This will not work. Why? Because you can't assign to a function call, and whenever you open your parentheses, you actually call a function, right? Whenever we say print, we are calling the function to print. Whenever we say type, we are calling the function what? Type. So what you're trying to say here is let 5 be, I don't even know how to even say it. The value of the function of test. So Python won't even let you. So that is not possible. And really the main reason is because you really can't assign to a function call. So you can't assign to, when you call your function, you can't assign a value. And you see it. So another good thing is whenever you have errors in Python, note that last line. Oh, it's not a dictionary. Note that last line that tells you the name of the error and what the issue is. And if you look at it, well, most times you'll find this what's it called? Right under where the main issue is. Sometimes it's really useful for some kinds of errors. So you know where your problem is and you can easily solve that. So also unacceptable variable names, you cannot put a space between two things and call it a variable name. So I like using some a lot. Some variable is 5. Never. Rather than using a space, you can close your space with an underscore. You can close your space by just not having anything. Right? No space. You cannot start your variable name with an integer or a float, really. The invalid syntax. Well, if I remove this and I say, oh, go. What else? Yeah, you cannot use predefined, let's say log here. Let me try. All right. I'm so used to naming my variables correctly. I use the underscore sheet. I wanted to use this guy. You see that the color is actually even different because what you're gonna do does is predefine functions, operators. They all have their color schemes. Objects really have their color schemes in Python. I mean, in Jupyter Notebook. So one piece is right. I'll get an error. I can't assign to operator, right? But if I said remove it totally, it will be fine. And if I did an underscore, will be good, right? Okay, so that works for that. All right, so another peer discussion. Why do you think some variable names are, why do you think some variable names, I've mentioned one or two, but let's see if we can still crack one. I want to see if we can crack one from our rules. Why are some variable names accepted and why are some not accepted? Who wants an idea? Or what do you think? Why are some variable names accepted in Python and some are not accepted? Thank you. Yeah, very correct. That's actually correct. Yeah, I was even thinking, another very logical reason is if anything can be a variable name, that means, like you said, we've limited the predefined functions that can be in Python. So that means one thing can be having different meanings, and the moment that begins to happen in your code, there's fire on the mountain. The moment you have mixed variables up, just me. So a funny story. I was writing a code to do something, right? And it was working. So I was trying to make some edits and I changed a variable. But I always update, so there's another line of code to update that variable to the next level. I absolutely forgot to update the variable, to change it. Like the same way I can say, let my next int be h plus 1. I totally forgot. So the variable was staying the same. And I kept trying to debug. It was a very long code, it was just a part of the code. I was trying to debug. And I'm telling you, I was on this for almost 5 hours. Because I remember I started that in the morning, it was in the evening. And by evening, I realized all I was missing was +1 in my code. So it can be like that. And why did it take me so long? Because rather than being patient and looking through the code line by line properly, I was trying to just, the error should be here, the error should be here. I didn't track the error down properly. And many times I just tried to, and I thought it was only one big error, it was just something really small. So many times, that's why it's very important you're patient and you look through your code very well. And putting space between names can also make variable name confusing. Thank you. And even parsing it, because you find out that there are ways that Python passes, or let me say Python reads our things, and having some kinds of variable names makes it really, really harder to do. Must not begin with a number or have spaces between. Awesome. Thank you. Must not start with a number. Maybe so as not to confuse. Yes, some names are reserved keywords. This person has been doing Python for a while. That's the word, reserved keywords. Okay. All right. So data type conversions. We mentioned a bit on this before, but let's just look at it again. We talked about how we can convert from different data types, right? And we'll look at these examples, convert our floats. We'll do that, and then we'll continue from logical operators. All right? Okay, let's go. We're almost done for today. Yay. So tips. when we convert an integer to a float, we don't really change the value. However, if we cast the float to an integer, we could potentially lose some information. What do we mean? Imagine if we have an integer, a float, and let's say f1, no, let's say f9, that movie just came out. F9 is call it 5.6, no, let's say 5.7, and f1 is 2.0, right? If I convert f9 to an integer, what will be the value? Let's try it now. int f9. That's right. We are not rounding it up. So we are not rounding it up. We are converting to an integer. That's the difference. If we're going to round it up, you will use a function. Now, look at where the difference comes in. Let's have to run this again. If I use another function called round, you will see, and I just say round, it will be 6. That will round it up. But because the integer will just cut the decimal away and keeps the whole number. So that's what this is saying, that you can lose some functionality, but if you convert an integer to a float, nothing will, because the integer has a decimal point is 0 literally, right? Okay. All right. Trying to see. Okay, any questions on mine? Okay, good. All right. So example 1. So let's do this as an exercise. Nigerian naira equals to 9. Let's do that. Type that out. Let's type that. Nigerian naira equals to 9. We check the data type. We confirm. Now try to type Nigerian naira. It's an integer. It should be an integer. Have you gotten that? Okay. Now let's add. Just change the variable name. Nigerian naira float, and just equals. So to change from an integer to a float, all you do is you use the float function. Oops. You use the float function. That's it. Use the float function. So you see, you assign that. So float Nigerian naira is what will actually be the assignment you want. 99 becomes 9.0, right? So when you say, once you call the float function, you put the Nigerian naira, your variable, there is an integer, or there's whatever you want to convert to a float. You put it in between the parentheses, you run your cell, it's converted to a float. But to put it inside another variable is why we now assign it. Okay, so we put the other variable where you're assigning to is always on the left hand side, assignment operator, and then we assign our function call. Okay, how many of us got that too? There should be no issue there at all. Any issues? Still on it. Oh, okay. All right, so to confirm that what we have done is correct, just put the type, find the type of Nigerian naira, float, and you should get a result as float. All right. Okay. So as an example, let's use ourselves. Convert 9.345 to an integer. All you have to do is what? int. Remember, we use int to convert to integer. We use float to convert to float, and we use str, as you will see, to convert to a string. You can convert anything to a string, any integer or float to a string. Okay, so we'll close. I'm going to close here for today. We'll continue from there in the next class. But let's all get that through. How many of us want to go until 5 p.m.? Someone wants to go. That's nice. Okay, we have people raising their hands. Please, if you have questions, just drop them in the chat so that we can take them here. Okay, yes. What's your question? Yeah, what's your question? Okay, try that.
Yeah,
He gave you a float. You put a decimal point after 3. What do you mean after you defined it? When you defined it? Yes, no, so yes, we are defining it as a float there, but you already have a variable. Me now, because I do an example, it makes sense that instead of converting it to a float, why don't I just put a zero behind it, right? But you cannot append to an integer. And it's because in this case you already know what it is. Imagine you are doing a calculation, you don't know the result, but you know the result to be a float and you only want the integer. So you can't put 0 behind that. Do you get that? So this is just showing us how it works, but you find out that in actual practice, you can't always, it's not always so straightforward. So that's why we use these things to know that, okay, once I know that, okay, I can know my result is a float, or I need an integer, I only need the whole number part of it, int, put into the int function, I get my integer, right? So if you do int 9.3, okay, so the person was asking if, instead of using float to convert, so it was asking that instead of doing this, float 9 to convert 9, which is an integer, to a float, why didn't we just say 9, let's say a is 9, right? So instead of saying converting a to a float, why don't we just say a is 9.0? I mean, which is straightforward and logical, but in the case where we do not know what value a is, we can't do this. We can't just add 0 behind the number. So that's why we use float. So in that case, we just say float a, we get 9.0. All right. So actually, this should run again. Then float a is actually 9.0. All right. So we'll close here for today. It's been an awesome class. How many of us enjoyed it? Great. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So please, like we shared earlier, you can share with us on social media. Take pictures, share your progress. A lot of people have gotten, I know quite a number of people that they started their journey into getting an internship on Twitter. Let people know what they are learning. Like Leko mentioned last week, it's usually very good. Start building your portfolio, start building a profile for yourself on social media that I do Python. You need somebody that can do Python, I do this. I'm learning AI, I'm learning ML, and this is the progress I'm making. It's always really beautiful. You can track your progress, especially on Twitter. Love to see that. Thank you, awesome class, great, thank you so much, thank you everyone. So we'll continue next week, Tuesday. You're going to get a link to the quiz for today's class via mail, and we'll drop it on the info pack. You see it on the info pack, you see it in the mail, you see it on WhatsApp, so that we can just check what we've learned today and be sure that we really do it. Don't worry. The last assessment wasn't hard, right? Yeah, so the assessments, they are not hard, they are not meant to quiz you. They're just meant to let you see how you're learning and let you see how much you've learned and how much you still need to cover. All right, so we'll close that for today. Thank you all so much for joining. Online, YouTube, you guys are awesome. Online audience, you guys are super awesome. Thank you everyone for coming here as well. So before we go, I'd like us, for us here at least,